On January 3rd, 2023, I made a predictions video for the 2023 calendar year and where I thought the Halifax real estate market was going to go. And in today's video, I'm going to review these predictions and take it with a bit of a grain of salt and have a good laugh about it. But some of them I got right, some of them I got wrong, but this is what I'm going to talk about in today's video. And before I do, it's important to note that nobody really has a crystal ball. If you look at all the economists and what they predicted for this year and all the different banks and all the different institutes, there were a lot of different ideas of where the 2023 market was going to go in Halifax. And some of them are right and some of them are wrong and everything in between. So if you ask 10 different people where they think the market's going in a certain year, you might get 10 different answers, but the truth is nobody truly knows where it's going. We're just taking all the data and all the statistics and the market conditions, and we're making an educated guess on where things are going to go. Now, just before I get into it, if you're new here, my name's Andrew Stevens, and I've been a realtor in Halifax for 9 years. And if you're looking to be educated on the Halifax real estate market, then this is the channel for you. So hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to book a call or a meeting with me to chat about the real estate market, or if you're thinking about making a move in the Halifax Dartmouth area, you can reach out to us anytime in the Calendar link below my description at a time when it's convenient for you.
So that being said, I'm going to make a bit of a bold prediction surrounding price. I'm going to say that for the second time in 43 years in the Halifax region, the average price year over year is going to decrease. Now, I know that sounds scary, but hear me out. So yes, that's right. It's only happened once since 1980, and that was between 1994 and 1995, and it only dropped a couple $100 on average year over year. So the reason I think it's going to go down year over year is I'm expecting the market to not change drastically. So this year, our average sale price in 2022 was about $535,000 in the Halifax region. However, the first 4 months of the year really carried that average price point because it was really hot in January, February, and March. But the last 6 months of the year, the average price point was only about $490,000. So I do think it's going to come up a little bit from there. I think we're going to end 2023 with an average price point somewhere around $520,000, $525,000. So with that being said, I think it's going to come down about, 2% or so. However, again, I was really torn on this, but I do think it's going to hover somewhere around where it's at now. So I think anywhere from about down 4% to plus 2 or 3% is probably where we're going to see it end up this time in 2023.
All right, so first off, 0 for 1. I got this one wrong. Prices are going to be up probably about 2.5% in 2023. It's not quite the end of the year, but that's kind of what it's looking like. And truth be told, this was a bit of a bold prediction. This has only happened one time in now the last 43 years in the HRM. So although a lot of the public thought the market was going to crash, this was not really the consensus from a lot of the real estate professionals and a lot of the different people making predictions for 2023. But the truth is, this was what I would consider our down year. So if it's up a little bit right now, I'm feeling pretty good about the stability of our market going forward. And if the average price didn't drop this year in 2023, I don't think it's coming anytime in the foreseeable future either. Now, I did say that I was a little torn about this prediction, and to be honest, this was a bit of a difficult one, but I did think it was going to remain relatively status quo, either down 3 or 4% or up 2 or 3%. So I was pretty bang on with that, but I will give myself a loss on this one, 0 for 1, because I did say it was going to go down.
Moving on to my second prediction, I predict that interest rates in Canada will stabilize, but I do not think they're going to decrease in 2023. So we had 7 rate hikes in 2022, and I think it was more than really what anybody thought it was going to be. But I do think it's going to jump again probably in January, but I think probably 25 basis points, maybe 50 basis points. But then I think it's going to stabilize, and I think we're going to hang out right around where we're at now for the whole year of 2023. I think it's
all right, so not a great start. Now we're 0 for 2. So I was wrong on this one. And I mean, really, I'd almost give myself a half a point, but I'm not going to. In my world, we're either wrong or we're right. So it did jump 25 basis points in January, and then it jumped again 25 basis points in June and 25 more in July. So it was, yes, a lot more stable in 2023 versus 2024, but it did rise a lot more than I thought it would this year. But the consensus going forward, for those of you watching who are interested, is that the rates will likely start coming down around Q2 or Q3 in 2024.
That leads me right into my third prediction. I predict that sales will be up about 5% in Halifax in 2023. Now, again, you're going to get mixed reviews on this depending on who you talk to. Some people think the sales are going to be down, some think they're going to be up. I think it's going to remain likely right around where it was at this year, but I do think it's going to be up a tad because I think that rates will stabilize, and then I think that buyer activity will re-engage, and I think we'll, see a bit of a spark in the market toward the middle point of the year leading into a busy fall and fourth quarter. The biggest problem I think with sales going up, and this is the one thing I have as kind of a reservation to this prediction, is I do not think there's going to be a ton of listings in 2023. So I think if they are down, I bet the listing numbers are going to be down, and that's really what's going to create that decrease in sales rather than the uptick that I'm predicting right now.
Okay, so now I'm 0 for 3, but it does get better moving forward. So sales were not up this year. They were down about 13%, give or take, is where we're going to end up year over year. And honestly, the new listings were so low, and we really didn't have the listing inventory that we needed. We had a lot of listing inventory in the 750,000 and above range, but what we really needed was a lot more inventory in the 500 and below range. Not to mention the interest rates really slowed things down as well once they started to go up in June and July. And to put this into context for you, in terms of the new listings coming to the market, this year we're going to see about the lowest amount of new listings coming to the market that we've seen since probably the early 2000s, talking around 2002, 2003, give or take. And in terms of the sales, we're about the lowest that we're going to have since about 2014. And then if I look even further back than that in the HRM, it wouldn't be this low since about 1995. So very little market activity happening, which is not really a surprise based on the interest rates and the low number of listings as well.
Moving on to prediction number 4, I think the rental market in Nova Scotia will stay incredibly difficult. So
Hey, now we're moving in the right direction. I got one right, and this one is pretty self-explanatory. Our rental market is in a complete disaster, and although the government has been doing some more things to try to help this situation, our vacancy rate basically remains less than 1%, so pretty much zero, as in there's no real apartments for people that need them. Our homeless population is skyrocketing, and the rental prices are some of the highest in the country as well, and it doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon. One stat that's a little hard to wrap your head around that I made a whole video about not long ago is that we're adding 7.7 people to Nova Scotia every year for every 1 unit of housing that we're building. And again, I'm no mathematician, but this math is not adding up for a happy ending anytime soon for our rental market across the province and especially across HRM.
So prediction number 5, I'm going to go and say that the market is going to remain relatively stable and relatively status quo. So what I mean by that is the market's not going to change a lot from where we're at right now in December and January. So in general, I expect the sales to remain relatively the same, even though I think they are going to decrease a little bit. I think the sales are going to remain relatively the same, except I think they're going to increase a little bit. I would expect housing inventory to remain relatively around 2 or 3 months, which would be a seller's market. And within that seller's market, it's going to seem more like a buyer's market because the inventory has been so low for the last couple of years. But overall, it's going to remain a seller's market here in 2023 in the Halifax Dartmouth region, in my opinion.
Yes, we're still in a seller's market. We're sitting at about 2.5 months of listing inventory. So it has shifted a little bit from where it was back in 2022 and 2021 from when the market was really crazy. But the conditions have not really changed. We're still in a seller's market and we have 2.5 months of listing inventory. So when I said we were going to end up around 2 to 3 months of listing inventory at the end of the year, I was pretty bang on with this one.
Moving on to prediction number 6, I predict that there's going to be a lot of smaller landlords, kind of the average Joe landlord that own a property or two. They're going to be unloading their investment properties.
Well, this is a bit of a tough one because there's no real true way to measure this outside of my own experience and other people that I talk to in the industry and what their experience has been. But I'm going to give myself a check mark on this one because in my experience this year, I did have some listings that were kind of the smaller landlords unloading their properties as they were feeling that they were getting a little bit squeezed out by the rates and by the rent cap and all the cost associated with having a rental property. So even though they weren't really planning on selling, they did anyway, and it kind of came quickly when they decided to do that. And I was getting a lot more inquiries from people who were renting out certain properties and whether they should sell or not. So I am going to give myself a check mark on this one. But if you're a realtor or if you're in the industry and you're watching this, I would love to hear what your experience has been on this topic down below in the comments.
And my last prediction, prediction number 7, I'm going to predict that Canada's foreign buyer ban doesn't really have a big impact in the Halifax-Dartmouth region.
So I was right on this one. There's so many exemptions here, and they actually changed it midway through the year to add even more exemptions. So while this may have had a big effect in some other cities across Canada, I don't feel like it had a big effect on our local market here in the HRM. So there you have it. I was 4 for 7 or 57%. So I passed, but just barely. And really, it's hard making these videos about where I think the market is going to go, and nobody truly knows what's coming and nobody has a crystal ball. But it is sort of a fun video to make and then review it a year later. And it's funny because when I look back, I'm thinking to myself, how could I possibly think certain things and then they didn't happen? But it is fun to make these videos, and I will make another one for the coming year in 2024 in early January. And the reality is, I was pretty close on my first 3 predictions. Although I was wrong, I was in kind of the right range of what I was expecting. But at the end of the day, when I chose to go one way or the other with it, I was wrong. So it is fun making these videos, and I will make another one for next year. Now, if you're still here watching and you got any value out of this video, all I ask is that you hit that like button and you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future content, and that'll help push this out to more people like you who may be interested in seeing videos about Halifax and the real estate market. And until next time, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it, and have a great day.